Many aspiring artists ask themselves, how can I find my own style? I searched for a long time too, and it was quite a bumpy road. In this video, I reveal how I found my style, and I'll also share some tips on how you can do the same. So stay tuned. Today I feel comfortable and at home in the artistic field of photography and surface design. But before I found my niche, I tried out many different things. I have always been very creative and experimented with many techniques, but none of them felt quite right. At the time, I hadn't considered that art could be more than a hobby. Later, I slowly realized that I wanted to pursue art more intensively, perhaps even making a living from it. I designed my own quilting fabrics, sewed products with them and sold them at markets and on Etsy. But somehow it wasn't right for me. Then by chance, I stumbled upon designing and creating headpieces, fascinators and hair accessories for weddings, and I was fascinated. I threw myself into it, buying loads of materials and getting started. I also sold my products on Etsy. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful enough to make a living from it. I'll explain why in another video. But it didn't feel completely comfortable with that either. No, I needed good product photos. The first photos were taken by a student who wanted to build up her portfolio, but I had to edit the images myself, despite having no idea of how to do that. I read a useful book, downloaded Photoshop elements and got started. After watching the first videos on video retouching on YouTube, I realized that I really enjoyed working on the pictures. Even during the shoots, I thought to myself, I can do that too. So I decided to take and edit my own product photos in future. And that's how I got into photography. Photography covers many areas. Even as a teenager, I enjoyed taking photographs. For example, I liked photographing houses and impressive buildings. Now I was involved in product photography. As that the headpieces were worn by people, I turned to portrait photography. I threw myself into it, booking courses and practicing a lot. However, fear and a lack of money prevented me from trying it professionally. Then I took a trip to Japan. I bought various lenses because I had no idea what I actually wanted to photograph there. I also booked photo tours. I wanted to try out as much as possible. And I took tons of pictures. However, since I had no understanding of composition or storytelling, most of them weren't very good. But all of this didn't help me answer the question, where should my photographic journey take me? Because I enjoyed everything. The exciting and, for me, overwhelming urban scenery of Tokyo, the beautiful landscape, quiet temple complexes or old castles. I tried everything. But I realized that being out and about with my camera was incredibly fulfilling itself. Particularly during a hiking tour on Nakaseno Highway in Japan, it became clear to me I had never been hiking before and I had never experienced such a scenery. I felt great. It was then that I first had the thought that I would like to take photos outdoors. But I also realized that I wasn't as fit as I would like to be. The idea of hiking days or long hours with a heavy backpack, the camera backpacks, they are super heavy, seemed pretty far-fetched to me. So I stuck with the idea of becoming a portrait photographer and created a portfolio. Then COVID hit, and suddenly I was very happy that I didn't have a studio, and I realized that wasn't the path for me. I took my first flower photos in Japan, primarily while hiking, but also around temple complexes. That's when I realized that this was what I wanted to do. Back home, I started photographing flowers here too, first along the roadside and then anything within reach of my neighbor's garden fences. Then I started visiting flower parks and large gardens. I enjoyed macro photography, but it wasn't quite my style. But when it came to flowers, I knew I had found my calling. Being out in nature made me feel so at ease. I wanted to share this joy with others. I can't remember how I came across lens baby lenses. I used my first lens baby for portrait photography. However, it was only when I started working with prisms that I realized this is it. This is what I want to do. But I was still not satisfied. Looking through the many photos I had taken, I couldn't decide which ones to publish. That's when I came up with the idea of creating collages. To be absolutely sure that I wasn't copying anyone else, I did thorough Google research and couldn't find anyone doing exactly the same thing. I like the pictures by Isabelle May and Isabelle Menin. However, I didn't want to copy them, as many others do, apparently earning good money doing so. Having my own style is important to me. I have found that with collages based on my prism photographs, and I have a lot of fun developing these images, this is what I really want to do. Recently, I have also been doing more pattern design again. I'm currently developing my own style, trying to establish a connection with my photography to make my art recognizable as my own. This is not easy because clear vector lines bear no resemblance to the blurred images I create through photography. I have still a lot of work ahead of me. It's a real challenge. I have realized that a personal style does not develop overnight. It's the sum of everything that inspires and moves you, what makes you feel good. While it is important to be inspired by other artists, it's not enough to simply follow what others are doing. You have to actively search for your own style. As a fan of Brooke Shaden, I took her courses and tried my hand at conceptual fine art photography. I won't show you the results, as they were terrible. I didn't enjoy taking the photos at all. I thought all my ideas were awful and I constantly felt unable to express myself. Dark art is just not my thing. I also created collages in the style of Isabelle May, which I found exciting. But even here, I wanted to forge my own path. Collage, yes, but a different kind. If you're looking to find your style, here are some tips to help you. Experiment, experiment, experiment. Try out different areas. For example, do you prefer to work in analog or digital media? If you prefer analog, the next consideration is the choice of tools, brushes and canvas, paper and pen, clay, textiles, and so much more. You could even use ordinary everyday objects and transform them into sculptures. Try things out and see how you feel about them by listening to your inner voice. I also worked with clay at school, of course. Everyone did. But I hated it. It just didn't feel good for me. I didn't like the feeling of the wet clay on my hands. Even as a child, I didn't enjoy playing in the mud. Don't get me wrong. I think art made with clay is great. Sculptures, objects, jewelry, everything, I love it. But working with clay or other materials to make sculptures again? No, thank you. It just didn't feel right for me. Break down the area that interests you. Once you have found it, explore all the possibilities it offers. In photography, for example, I experimented with portraiture, conceptual fine art, product photography, still life, and macro photography. Ultimately, I became a fine art flower photographer. But I haven't tried everything. Why not? You don't have to try everything. What? That's a contradiction to what I said before. Now it's quite simple. The reason why I did not try architectural photography is simple: costs. To do it properly, you needed lenses that I didn't have, and buying them would have been really expensive. I would also have to travel to places with interesting architecture to build a convincing portfolio. When I considered these obstacles, I realized that I didn't have a major ambition in this area. Investing in another lens just to experiment would have been pointless. Don't be seduced by bling bling bling. Experimenting with loads of different things can be expensive. I know this because I often made this mistake in the past. But if clay doesn't suit my hands, would acrylic paint be a better option? Probably not. But maybe watercolor paint would. I don't need to buy every brush and pot of paint right away. I can work my way up slowly, starting with flowers, then moving on to illustrations for children and editorial work. This will help me to see what materials I can use for all the areas I want to try out. Investing in tools and materials right away during the trial phase isn't really helpful. Analyze art. If you don't want to spend years experimenting like I did, then a good analysis can be helpful, especially if you're older and don't have that much time anymore. Examine the works of other artists. What appeals to you? Why? Is it the use of materials? The production process? The content? What can you express with it? Asking yourself these questions can quickly connect you with your inner voice. I realized that I really liked the spatial depth of Isabelle Lemai's pictures. However, I didn't want to copy her work. How could I create that spatial depth? The answer was to use prisms.
Discover the fundamental essence of your artistic work. I didn't spend much time on conceptual photography as I didn't enjoy it. But then I found out what was at the core of my discomfort, not only with this type of photography, but also with my other projects. The answer surprised me because it had a lot to do with my own personality, and it was hidden deep within me.
I like to work spontaneously and experiment with materials. I've always been like that, whether I was designing headpieces or making a collage from my photos. When I was a child, I used to build and design things with all my materials scattered around me. I still work that way today, even digitally.
There is no planning or concept. Starting from a basic idea and slowly working my way forward is my creative process. This rules out repetitive work, which was necessary when I was making pieces for my headpiece shop. I only enjoyed the creative process in designing them. I did not enjoy having to recreate them when an order arrived and when I received an order. What message do you want to give with your art? When it came to conceptual dark art photography, I wasn't sure what I wanted to achieve. Now I want to share my joy of nature and create a sense of well-being. Could I achieve this with other stylistic devices like landscape photography? Probably, yes. However, creating flower collages rather than landscape photography came quite natural to me, and it just felt right. I hope I have been able to give you a few ideas on how to find your own style. What is your artistic dream? Please write it down in the comments below. If you want more insights into my life as an artist, subscribe to my channel. I'll take you behind the scenes of my work. So this is it for now. See you in the next video. Bye bye.